Okay guys, the topic of this presentation here, this video is going to be two things. Family feudalism. Why did you make me do that? Should I start over?
No, that's okay. You know, you're allowed to make mistakes. Hey, it's Mr. Reitman here with Mr. Plaza. We're going to talk to you about feudalism and manners.
Okay, our essential question that we're going to look at a lot during this particular video is, why does government exist?
Well, we first have to figure out what feudalism is. And feudalism is a political system of local government based on the granting of land in return for loyalty, military assistance, and other services.
Right, so the big thing you should remember, land for loyalty, and that'll give you a pretty good definition of what feudalism is. And as far as hierarchy goes for feudalism, at the very top we have the king. During this time, the king was obviously the top dog in a lot of these societies, and he controlled all of the land, but it's very difficult for a king to control all that land. So he actually gave land to his lords or nobles. He split up his land and said, you guys control the land. The lord then would give his land, the fief, that's what they call it, to a knight or a vassal. Okay, the knight could not own the land. They could use the land and the products to support the family, and in exchange for using that land, they had to give the lords military service. So it's kind of like they had his back if he ever needed them, if he got in a disagreement with somebody. Okay, and then the last term we need is primogeniture, which means that if you were a vassal with land and you died, your land then went to your eldest son.
Warfare was very important as well. There were a lot of different private fights between feudal lords or between lords and vassals. The knights were very heavily armed fighters, okay, dealt with chainmail, iron helmet, sword, shield, those type of things. Gunpowder was also very important. It was needed to create plate armor. And the reasons these were all important is that nobles wanted glory and wealth, others fought to end suffering and hardship, and the church tried to restrict fighting, which is, you would think that's what they wanted, but they could never really enforce it strictly enough.
Right, so if you look at the knights, you see their armor. At first, they just used the chainmail, like you see in that upper left picture, but eventually with bullets and gunpowder, they had to go to more of the plate armor, which you see on the right. And they had a lot of fights that they had to make sure that they were defended for. Okay, in a feudal society, there were three ways that they could come to a solution or a verdict if someone was accused of a crime. Okay, number one, you could have a duel or a trial by battle. Okay, so if two people disagreed, you'd simply go onto a battlefield and you'd fight it out and see who won.
On guard!
Absolutely. The second one is called compurgation, and it's a very fancy way of saying they basically had a courtroom trial like we have today. So if someone was accused of a crime, they would go to a room and have to present their case, and then they would have people who swore that the person they represented was telling the truth. Today we call these people character witnesses. They go up there and tell them, hey, this person's telling the truth. I know this person. He would never do something like that. Okay, and then there'd be a decision made after that.
I'll look out for you, Mr. Plaza.
Thanks. The third type of feudal justice is called trial by ordeal. And what that means is that they would have the person go through an ordeal, and the way that the person performed would show you if he was guilty or innocent. For example, you see that top right picture? This man was accused of a crime, and they asked him to hold onto a red-hot piece of iron, and then they would look at the blisters on his hand. And if he blistered too much, obviously he'd be guilty and sentenced accordingly. Okay, so it's kind of a more crazy way of administering justice than we have today.
We have the manorial system, and that was an economic system that revolved around self-sufficient farming estates where lords and peasants shared the land, so there was group interaction there. This included manor houses, cultivated lands, woodland pastures, fields, and villages. And these were self-sufficient. The word self-sufficient, they were able to produce everything they needed. All the food, all their shelter, all their clothing, everything was taken care of in that self-sufficient society. Some goods were needed to be purchased. They had to purchase things like iron, salt, wood, wine, and other manufactured goods. But for the most part, they tried to be as self-sufficient as they could.
Right, so the manor was controlled by the nobles, like we talked about earlier, who had their piece of land. Okay, and actually in the next couple of days, you guys are going to create your own example of a medieval manor where you're going to have to include all of these things. Right here, you just see an example of that. Okay, so if you need to rewatch the video, please make sure you do that. Make sure you take notes and be ready to go on Friday.
That's all we got for you, kids. Have a great day.